Hi, good morning. Thank you guys for coming out, and thank you to Doc NYC for believing that I have a manifesto. But I have to say that I feel like my topic, which is getting films made, I feel like I was given the hardest topic in all of the morning manifestos, because getting films made is always a process and a journey. I think no matter how much experience or how little or how much experience you have. So I'm just going to talk about a few things that I've come to sort of take from my experience in making films and being in this business. And hopefully they will, and I'll show a few clips as well, and hopefully it'll help you in your work and your journey, because I think of this career and making documentaries as a journey, a really amazing, also sometimes frustrating, but a journey, and that's what makes it exciting, and I think that's why we do this work. So I'm assuming that we probably, in this audience, have had various successes, some successes, a few successes, and a bunch of failures in getting films made. And I say failures as a good thing, because we all learn from our failures, and keep on keeping on. Of course, one of the main issues about getting films made is funding. And there's other factors, of course, but funding being a key one to realizing your vision and figuring out how to get that funding. And of course, there are things that we always say in terms of funding, and in terms of getting your film made, that you need perseverance, being able to deal with rejection. All those things are very true, especially if you have been toiling and not getting the success or not getting that funding that you want. But I do have to say that perseverance, I've seen it in my own career, and I've seen it with other folks, really does pay off in terms of you actually being able to do the work that you want to do and having your passion for your film. And that passion really shows, and we as documentary filmmakers are passionate about our subjects, and conveying that to various funders or broadcasters or commissioners or whoever you're looking for is pretty key. But I also think you need to be smart about where you go for funding. Sometimes people say, I'm going to apply to everything and see what hits, and they are you can end up wasting energy and getting frustrated because they aren't necessarily the places that are a good home for your film. So I think it's figuring out who the best funder is and where the best home for it may be. It may not be the biggest or the most well-known, but I urge you to do that research before you embark on that journey of funding. And one way to do that, besides just doing research, seeing what else they've funded, seeing what else they've broadcast, is actually trying to connect with funders. I mean, I teach, and I always tell my students, a good old phone call still works. To talk to, and a lot of places are open and will tell you quite honestly whether they think your film qualifies for their funding. But I do have to say, one of the best rejections I ever got from a foundation that shall remain unnamed, is I had applied. I thought it was a really good fit, and they wrote me back and rejected me and said, and please don't apply again, because we don't think that this will get funded in the next round. And you always hear apply again, and of course I was going to apply again, but I'm thankful that they told me, so I didn't have to waste my time applying again. But you do figure out, I think, where with those rejections, with those disappointments, you start to figure out where it is a good fit, and also how you need to shape your film in order to get the funding and to get it made. And so you use those rejections as teaching moments and as ways to help you shape what your film is and to figure out your vision, because a large part of this is figuring out your vision. which, as a lot of us know, we don't really figure out maybe till way into the process, but we at least have to come to the table with a vision. And those rejections can help you do that. But it's also important to trust your instinct as well. I just want to give an example from The New Black, which Tom mentioned, so the film is about the relationship between the African American community and the LGBT community, and how they sort of came in clashing in the election of 2008 with the election of Barack Obama and with the passage of Proposition 8 in California, which ended marriage equality, which the state had just passed. But I followed in 2012 one of the first marriage equality initiatives in Maryland that ended up being passed, where both sides were vying for the African American vote, which was very important in that election. So that was the film, and I started it really in 2008 during the election, and followed over a couple years what was happening, and then the Maryland ballot initiative, and I went deep in, and that became sort of the spine of the film. But at one point, I had one of my main characters who I'd been following, and she was an activist and working on this issue. And I had a lot of sort of activist stuff with her, like, you know how activists can talk in an activisty way, and meetings and stuff. But I was like, okay, I really need the personal side of this. Like, this is what's gonna, like, how is this personally affecting her and her family? And so it was one weekend, and I told her what I needed, what I was looking for. And it was one weekend. I had a major grant due that Monday, and she told me that there was she was having an event with her family, a family barbecue. And she's like, I think it'll be really interesting because people are coming in from all over the country, and this may be, a good sort of thing that you're looking for. And I actually got into, not fisticuffs, but got into a back and forth with my producer, who's an amazing producer, because my producer wanted me to work on the grant. And that's what the focus should be. This is where we're gonna get our money. But I instead chose to go down to DC, bring a skeleton crew. We had no real money at this point either, and shoot this scene. And this scene ended up being one of the reasons why I think we got the subsequent funding that we got. So I just want to show that scene. It's from The New Black. I think it's the first clip. Thank you. So that scene was pretty key to my getting the next level of funding that I was able to get that helped me finish the film. And it was making that decision to go and do that shoot over staying home and writing a treatment, which I think was the right decision. So trusting your instincts. Another thing that I found, and it's funny that my co-producer just walked in for The New Black, Angela Tucker, that has been key to helping me get projects made is collaboration. And it's only, as I've done more and more work, that's only been reaffirmed, that getting people who believe in your work on board and sharing that vision, sharing that creative vision with them as super important to help propel the film forward. And a lot of times it's because sometimes there is no movement on a film. Sometimes you're waiting for that you're waiting for that grant, or you're not getting the access that you want. And even just the having the emotional energy of other people who believe in your work and can help you figure out how to realize your vision is so important. And also being a part of other projects that you believe in. So Tom just mentioned that I just came back from Georgia, where I'm one of a number of directors on a film called And She Could Be Next, which is about women of color running for office nationally. And I've been following Stacey Abrams and Lucy McBath, who are in Georgia. Stacey Abrams, I'm sure you know, is fighting to have all the votes counted in that gubernatorial election, which she came very close. And Lucy McBath won the 6th district, which is Newt Gingrich's old district that John Ossoff ran for and she just won her seat. So, but there are, I think there's about 6 directors on this project, because the film is looking at a range of different women of color candidates. And I started on this project. I was asked if I wanted to be a part of it. And again, I was asked with, there was no funding in hand necessarily. And, but we knew that it was a project. When I was asked to be a part of it, I knew it was a project that I wanted to be a part of. And that the story was so important, and that touched on not only our political state of where we are, but that these midterm elections were going to be very, very important. But also, too, how women of color are taking power in this politically in a way that we haven't seen before. And in Georgia, especially, how the changing diverse population is changing the politics of. And even though we don't know what the outcome of that, and even if it doesn't go to Stacey's way, I believe we're telling a story about the future of where this country is. So I knew that I wanted to be on that project, and jumped on it, and have been filming there for the last year. And I came back a couple days after election. Part of my team is still there filming what's going on. But it was also because of who was heading up that project, a director named Grace Lee, whose work I love and who I love as a person. And so working with people who you share a vision with is important to getting projects that may not even originate from you made, but having your vision come into fruition. How much more time do I have? Okay, because I wanted to show. Okay, cool. Okay, so lastly, I just wanted to talk about another project that I am finishing, and it's a project that I was commissioned, so I was hired to make, and it's called The Green Book, which is about a travel guide, an African-American travel guide that was published from the 1930s through the 1960s, that helped us navigate places to stay, to eat, through segregation, through the Jim Crow era. And this was an example of, I was asked if I wanted to be the director. I had never heard of The Green Book, like so many of us. But again, it was a great film. It was a great project that ended up at the Smithsonian Channel, where it's going to air in February. But this was also a lesson in compromise, which I call this how to figure out your compromise, and if you want to compromise. For me personally, the chance to be able to direct more and not just wait 3, 4, 5 years making my independent films, but to be able to direct and to gain better directing chops, I hope, helps me get my own film made. Again, if it's a topic that I believe in, or that I'm, a topic that I'm interested in, and the value of working, of being a director for hire. So I actually find that very helpful in terms of getting my own film made, as well as being able to have some income as you are trying to get your own work made. But compromise is a big part of it, and I have to say I went into this film, and their independent producers, I feel like, can have, independent directors can have a, can be resistant to the formula sometimes of a channel. And this formula was narration, which I really did not want to do for this film. And we had a very quick edit, and we ended up losing that battle pretty early. And so I had to put in narration here. And not only, I was like, okay, maybe it can be, some narration, but it actually ended up being heavily narrated. So I just want to show the first, and I'm not even sure if my narration is in this first clip, but to me, still, even though I had to make that big compromise, it was worth it in terms of the experience I had, and in terms of the opportunity to do a different kind of project, and hopefully make me a better director that will help make me a better director for my own film. So if we could just show The Green Book. So Yeah, so this film was a super interesting process. It had a very tight edit schedule, had a very tight shooting schedule. We went to something like 7 states in 11 days. And the edit schedule was supposed to be 6 weeks. Of course, it ended up being longer than that. But, it was under very tight conditions, but it ended up being a piece it's that I'm super proud of and really excited that I was able to, to be a part of it. It's also good timing as the Green Book fiction film is coming out as well. So we're really excited about hopefully riding off those coattails as well. So I just want to conclude by saying, it can be hard and it can be frustrating, but there's no other work that I find as rewarding as what we do. And you all have your passion, assemble a great team, be open as well. I find talking to people about projects actually makes my work come into fruition. Sometimes people feel like they want to hold it close, or they don't want to say, or people are going to steal their ideas. I find the exact opposite, that it only helps getting my films made. And yeah, and I'm so excited to see, what the work is. I know what some of you are working on, and I say yay for documentaries and for documentary makers, and let's get those films made.